Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, a Christmas parade turned deadly. See what police are saying about the rampage to a holiday tradition. And missionaries freed in Haiti, what we're learning about their abduction. Plus, a deeper look at Christian persecution around the world, where some groups are committing genocide against believers in Christ. Some changes in Hollywood that you may not see in the movies, and why it's a good thing.
People want to be uplifted and inspired when they go to the movies.
Across America, one common goal for every hometown with a powerful mission. The experience and values we have in common are far greater and more important than the issues that divide us. We'll have these stories and more today on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
And we are learning more about that terrifying night at a Wisconsin Christmas parade after an SUV plowed through the holiday event in a Milwaukee suburb. CBN's Dale Hurd has the story for us.
A joyous scene of marching bands and children dancing in Santa hats turned deadly in an instant when this red Ford Escape mowed through police barricades before slamming into dozens of marchers, tossing many of them into the air. This toddler was almost hit when the SUV sped past.
We have multiple casualties. 30 people down.
Afterwards, bystanders were in shock. This video shows young families turning their children away from the carnage as people began to weep.
People were crying. I'm sure I saw some people who saw their family members get hit. That really shook me too, because I can't imagine having to see that.
And then all of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. The vehicle just struck a crowd of people on the parade route, and we heard deafening cries and screams.
Waukesha Police Chief Dan Thompson said they have a person of interest in custody, but did not release more details about the person or say whether police were looking for more suspects. But the website Heavy.com said it had obtained information that the suspect did identify himself to police as 39-year-old Daryl Edward Brooks, Jr. And New York Post columnist Carol Markowitz tweeted she could confirm Brooks is in custody. An eyewitness who spoke to a Wisconsin TV station described the appearance of the driver as similar to Brooks' appearance.
It was a black guy with dreadlocks by himself. I don't know if you want to use that.
Okay, well, listen, Rick.
Hey, I'm a black guy.
Police haven't said what triggered the driver to plow through the parade or whether it was connected to terrorism. One police officer fired at the SUV to try to stop it.
An officer did discharge his weapon at the suspect vehicle to try to stop the vehicle.
Local families are now dealing with dead or injured friends and relatives, and others left shaken by what they witnessed.
I was so close to actively losing my children, because children go into the road to get the candy, and they were saying that they wanted to get candy.
Public schools in Waukesha are closed today as local police work with the Wisconsin Department of Justice to try to figure out exactly what happened. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Waukesha is a western suburb of Milwaukee, about 55 miles north of Kenosha, where Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted Friday. People all across the country spent the weekend marching in protest. This was the scene in Milwaukee on Saturday as demonstrators spoke out against the verdict that acquitted Rittenhouse on all 5 charges in a shooting that left 2 people dead and another injured in 2020. On Friday, a 12-person jury decided the teenager acted in self-defense when he shot 3 men and killed 2 of them. Some in Kenosha cheered, while others were disappointed by that verdict.
Young black boys like Trayvon Martin are shot dead because they're carrying around Skittles, and someone like Rittenhouse is not guilty in all verdicts when he shot 2 people.
Kudos to Kyle. I'm glad he's free. I hope these people can respect the decision. Being an American doesn't mean you're going to get a court decision you like. It means you're going to respect the court decision you get.
Rittenhouse's family has hinted at possible defamation lawsuits related to how public figures and media organizations characterized his actions and motivations during the shootings. Over the weekend, Israeli police killed a gunman in Jerusalem's Old City. They say the gunman killed 1 person and hurt 3 others in a terrorist attack. The attack happened near one of the gates to the Flashpoint Alaska Mosque compound. Jews Jews revere the site as the remnant of two ancient temples. Police have not identified the gunman, but said he was armed with an improvised submachine gun, often used by Palestinian militants. The incident is the second attack in Jerusalem in 4 days. Today, the Prime Minister is urging caution. An Ohio-based church organization says 2 of the 17 abducted members of a missionary group have been freed in Haiti. Christian Aid Ministries issued a statement Sunday saying the 2 are safe and in good spirits and being cared for. It said it could not give the names of those released, why they were freed, or other information. We know that they were taken by a street gang who demanded $17 million in ransom. That was back in mid-October. A brand new upscale mall outside Jerusalem is drawing a lot of attention. It's not just because of the high quality goods. As CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl shows us, the shopping destination brings together Jewish and Arab merchants in what the world often calls the occupied territories.
This luxurious European-style shopping center sits in the Judean desert, about 10 miles outside Jerusalem.
Our dream is that when people buy apartment or build apartment or house, they will come for some place in this city and they will find all what they need for the house or for the apartment.
120 stores are already open here, and 50 more are planning to do the same. With prices ranging from inexpensive to luxury, they say you can find anything you want for your home right here at D-City.
Furniture, kitchen, tiles, all what people need for the house, they can find here.
Panina Revach is CEO of the Design City or D-City Mall.
Only when people come here, they really understand it's very special, very different. It's not only place to come to buy, it's really place that they can come, they can enjoy.
Situated on the road to the Dead Sea, the mall offers restaurants, a hotel, and even a nearby theme park.
I talk about tourists. And I'm sure that when we have some options like this, that we have very good restaurant and it's on the way for the Dead Sea, all of them will stop here, will come to enjoy in this place.
D-City is built in what much of the world calls a settlement, although Israelis as well as Palestinians from the West Bank can set up shop here.
I started looking for a shop here, maybe to open something new, maybe to open something to go along with the theme. I decided to open a gadgety luxury gift shop that gives answers to alternative of perfumes and t-shirts and standard regular gifts.
Luai Gul, a Palestinian from Jerusalem, owns a gift shop in Ramallah and now is opening one at D-City.
To be honest, in a daily life, we try not to go deep into politics. Just come here, do business together, live together, we share interests, we share businesses, we share life, basically.
This is the 10th Nicoletti store in Israel.
We opened before 2 months here, and Nicoletti is a design furniture, luxury from Italy, fabric, leather, and we have table with marble, wood, and all Italian style here in Israel, in this shop.
Tom Ovadia, son of the owner, says while this isn't a typical location for a mall like this, there are advantages.
Mishor Adumim is not the best location in Israel, but this is something different because the Palestinians and Jews together here, and we sell for a lot of Palestinians. They can come to here. They don't need nothing. They can come, buy, and go.
This is the first project in Israel, like the Design City. It's the first time I see something like that, okay? And it's really special to come to work here.
Zina Ghul manages this store.
We don't feel any differences. Like, we are one family here. Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Christians, we are all one. We live here. We live in Israel.
We need to work together, and we need to do the step for peace and love. I am Jew, she is Arabic, Muslim, and everything is okay.
So from designing and furnishing your home to tourist attraction to Israeli-Palestinian relations, the new Design City Mall is an experiment and an adventure that they hope will succeed. Julie Stahl, CBN News, D-City Mall, Mishor Adumim.
Coming up, the worst places in the world for Christians when it comes to facing persecution for their faith. We've got the story for you next. International Christian Concern has just unveiled its 2021 report on the top Christian persecutors of the year. ICC lists 3 categories this year: the worst group of persecutors, the worst individual persecuting Christians, and the worst country. ICC President Jeff King says, surprisingly, North Korea is not the worst country topping the list.
What we looked at was like how many Christians are being killed presently. Is it a problem that's not addressed? We chose Nigeria. It's a surprise for a lot of people. But Gary, in the last 20 years, 100,000 Christians have been killed. 3 million plus Christians have had their lands, farms, homes stolen from them. And the government is part of the problem. So we chose Nigeria.
Well, I know a lot of people say Nigeria, you know, that's just Fulani herdsmen and so forth, but it goes well beyond that. Tell us a little more.
Well, this is the problem. You know, we work in Washington, D.C., and we're working with the government. And so that's the line that comes from the Nigerian government. They want to frame this as a conflict between farmers and herders. It's not a conflict. It's a one-sided war. It's a genocide against Christians. There's Boko Haram also, but the Fulanis have done much more damage. The Fulanis are going in. These are armed groups that go in and shoot up Christian villages and take their land. And what's going on is it's a war that never ends, is never addressed. The Nigerian military never goes after the attackers. There's no arrests, there's no battles, there's nothing. And the reason is that, look, Muslims are in control of the police, the army, and the intel agencies. So the whole security apparatus of Nigeria is controlled by the Muslims. And so the fix is in is the phrase. It's like it never gets fixed. It's never addressed. Nothing ever happens.
Okay, Jeff, let's move on then and discuss the worst group persecuting Christians this year. It's not Boko Haram or Al-Shabaab. Who is it? What are they doing?
Well, it's the Taliban. And Gary, you know, look, the Taliban has been, you know, torturing, murdering Christians for years. The problem is that now they are in control of a state and they have a potent intel security apparatus set up by us, but now they're in control of it. They're calling Christian leaders. We know you. We're watching you. We're going to come get you. They're going door to door. And unfortunately, just this past 2 weeks, they grabbed the first Christian. And what happens is they'll torture him. They'll find out who the other Christians are he knows. And then if he won't turn back to Islam, they'll kill him. And there's going to be a whole bunch of that.
Well, a lot to pray about on that. Now, the worst government leader or person persecuting Christians, it's not Canada's Justin Trudeau for shutting down churches and arresting pastors during the COVID pandemic. So which government leader did you list as the top persecutor targeting Christians and why?
Well, you already nailed it. It's North Korea and it's Kim Jong-un. So either the country or he are going to show up in the top list. But look, the whole North Korean state exists to serve him and to keep him in power and the Kims in power. So we chose him as the individual doing the worst job against Christians, doing the most persecution against Christians. I think people know it, but look, if a Christian is caught with a Bible, if they're a real Christian, the regime will take 3 generations of one family and stick them in prison for life. And these are prison camps that are designed to slowly kill off people.
And, of course, we know that you have to worship the leader there. Juche is their faith, and that's worship of their leadership. I know there are many other countries of concern, especially, let's say, India, where attacks against Christians are on the rise. Tell us what's happening there, Jeff.
Well, India is especially disturbing, Gary, because India has a constitution that guarantees religious freedom. And they have a tremendous track record. But what's happened is you have some hyper-nationalists, some fundamentalist Hindus that have gained control. The Prime Minister Modi, is a radical Hindu. His party, the BJP, these are radical Hindus. They believe quite fervently that India is only for Hindus. And in India and Hinduism are fused, and there's no room for anybody else. And they're doing everything they can to slowly strangle Christianity. You won't hear it from his lips. He's a smart politician. Listen to the BJP leaders. Listen to his leaders in the party. You'll hear it quite clearly. They're not shy about it.
And, Jeff, I know China and Pakistan, those are always places of concern. And you've been to many of these countries. You've met with many persecuted believers around the world. Which country really is driving you to your knees in prayer right now? Maybe what one should we keep our eyes on?
Well, I pray for Nigeria constantly. We do a lot of work with the victims there. The 3 million plus that have already lost everything. Their homes have been stolen. 70 to 100,000 killed. The government is part of the problem because just like you said, the government says this is just herders and farmers. It's a conflict. It's nothing but, and they are complicit in the attacks on Christians.
Okay, I know that you're hoping this report will put more pressure on these governments to affect change. Jeff King, president of International Christian Concern. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing your time and insights. We appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Still ahead, cheers for Hollywood when it comes to more faith and family-friendly movies and what's behind this new direction. We've got the story for you when we come back. Stay with us. Uplifting news from Hollywood when it comes to what they are not including in movies these days. Our Mark Martin spoke with one movie industry expert about the encouraging trend for Christians and families.
Hollywood is producing movies with fewer sex scenes than it has in about 50 years, according to a BBC report. Movie Guide's Evie Carroll is here now with the story. Evie, this is good news, but is there more to it?
Well, what this article on BBC News is saying is that that they're now producing less sex scenes and less sex and nudity in movies since the 90s. And so it's interesting. This person who wrote this article is not actually too happy about it. So she's on the more secular realm. But this is what we've been doing at Movie Guide, kind of analyzing the movies in terms of how much sex, nudity, violence is in a movie. And we, too, have found that it is true that these things have diminished and people want more moral content.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings up my next question. Why is that? Why do you think Hollywood is making this decision?
Well, it really is that families want more moral content. So if you sell a ticket at the box office to just one person for an R-rated movie, you're going to make less money than if you're going to sell 4 tickets to a family. And thus far, all the Marvel movies have been clean and had Christian content to them. And, thus far, all the movies that are in the top 10 every year, 8 out of them have Christian content, more moral content, biblical content we talk about. And that could be things like sacrifice and giving to other people. And they don't have the sex and violence in them.
Recently, we've seen movies like the latest one about C.S. Lewis doing well in limited release, and also The Chosen's Christmas movie pre-sales break records. Are studios starting to pay attention to these examples?
They are, and many of the studios have faith divisions to them. Sony has Sony Affirm, and they produce a lot of the Kendrick movies, and Lionsgate has the Erwin brother movies. So we're happy about that. That's a big change in the industry from when we started Movie Guide about 30 years ago, and so we believe that's a great thing.
We also know that Clifford the Big Red Dog opened strong at number 2, just behind the new Marvel movie, Eternals. Is that another strong indicator of what sells?
It really is. It's a clean, wholesome movie with not very much questionable content. So that definitely shows the numbers that, people want wholesome movies.
All right. Do you think Hollywood will keep tracking in this direction? And what else do you think family audiences are hoping that Hollywood will do?
We do hope that Hollywood continues in this realm because, in the 80s and 90s, it was definitely a different story. And so, obviously there's a huge Christian audience out there. There's about 170 million Christians who go to church every week. And that's the content that we want to see reflected in movies. And people want to be uplifted and inspired when they go to the movies after a long, hard day of work. They really want that relief.
That is so true. All right, Evie Carroll with MovieGuide.org. Thanks so much again, Evie. Appreciate your time and insights.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, a major campaign coming to your hometown with a huge goal to help heal our nation. We got the story for you, and CBN NewsWatch continues. We'll be right back. We certainly hope this time of year brings you home for the holidays and perhaps inspires you to honor your hometown. Take a look.
You need to honor your hometown and make that an annual celebration.
Where do I begin when I talk about my hometown? It's so much. It's a mix of traditions and lineages.
I'm from Monticello, Georgia, home of the Piedmont Academy Cougars and the best place to grow up in the whole world.
No,
I love you, but the best place to grow up in the whole world was Yukon, Oklahoma.
These celebrities are among the many campaigning for us all to honor our hometowns.
In my Tennessee mountain home, life is as peaceful as a baby's sigh.
Filmmaker Ken Burns and singer and songwriter Marty Stewart are leading the effort they call an unprecedented campaign to recognize every American city, noting it's a nonpartisan effort with a simple but powerful purpose to remind all of us that the experience and values we have in common are far greater and more important than the issues that divide us.
I didn't really have a hometown as much as I had a home street in the South Bronx section of New York City.
It's only fitting General Colin Powell honored his hometown in the campaign before his passing a little more than a week ago.
I grew up learning what it's like to be with other people, to understand that this is America and all these immigrant nations make us a great country.
Honor your hometown. Time now for your Monday Motivation. I pray this message will bless your day and your Thanksgiving week. When you live in a place of gratitude, it's hard for anything else to take up residence. There's simply no room. Fill your heart with gratitude. Your reality, exactly where you are in this moment, is actually someone else's dream. With that word, I encourage you to make this a marvelous Monday. That is a wrap for this edition of CBN News Watch. Thank you so much for watching. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com at any time. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.